Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my week 3 recap of my 31 Days of Halloween, where I'm attempting to watch a different horror movie every day. This video is up much later than I anticipated. I'm sorry for that. Things just happened, and I was just working on a bunch of other videos and all kind of stuff like that. But let's get into it. This will be covering all the movies I watched from October 15th through October 21st. And first up here is a little bit of deja vu. I gave Halloween The Curse of Michael Myers a rewatch, but this time it was the producer's cut. For those of you not familiar with the producer's cut of Halloween The Curse of Michael Myers, or in this case, Halloween 6 The Curse of Michael Myers, this was the original cut of the film that was screened for viewers, and apparently they did not like it very much. So, which made the studio at the time, which was Dimension, made the filmmaker, the director, go back and kind of reshoot most of the movie and give it a different ending. And I have to say, the films are quite different. There are a lot of things that are the same. For those of you not familiar with the plot of Halloween 3, The Curse of Michael Myers, it takes place, I believe, 6 years after the events in Halloween 5. And this kind of chronicles, picks up with the character of Jamie Lloyd, who was Michael Myers' niece, and she is having a baby, and some cult wants this baby, and it's all about Michael Myers trying to hunt her down because she escapes. And then a bunch of other things happen. It's not good. Not even the producer's cut is actually good. The producer's cut is, I would say, a much better edited movie, and the plot is a much more easy to digest, but the ending is not great. The ending for both films are really, really bad, and the films overall, I think, are really bad. So I wouldn't even recommend this movie to anyone. If anyone is curious what I gave it compared to the first film, I gave the first theatrical cut of The Curse of Michael Myers a 2 out of 5 stars, and I gave this one a 2.5 out of 5 stars. It's really not that much better. But on the next day, which was the 16th of October, I watched the film called Mom and Dad, which stars Nicolas Cage as well as Selma Blair. And this is one of those kind of under the radar indie films that is pretty much where Nicolas Cage is doing all of his work these days. The plot of this film is basically there's this not even a virus. There's just like some kind of a signal coming over the television screens and stuff like that that it's causing all of the parents who witness it to want to murder their children. And the film is all about the children of Selma Blair and Nicolas Cage trying to survive from their parents who are trying to murder them. And it's a very weird movie. It's an interesting concept, and there is one particularly funny, just unique scene in the film where Nicolas Cage goes off in his Nicolas Cage type crazy rants that is really the highlight of the movie. And if you're interested in what I gave the film like 3 out of 5 stars. I know some people were giving it much higher marks, and people were watching it kind of just for fun because it is a typically fun movie. It's not a great movie. There's a lot of editing problems and over editing issues I had with it, so it's not that great of a movie, but it is a fun watch, especially if you're a Nicolas Cage fan. For the 17th of October, I watched 47 Meters Down, which is a shark movie. Every once in a while, a shark movie will pop up in theaters somewhere. Coincidentally, this movie originally was not supposed to go to the theaters. This movie was supposed to go like directly to VOD or directly to DVD, something like that. But I believe the rights changed hands at one point, so therefore the new rights owner, which I believe may have been Lionsgate, wanted to give it a theatrical release, and it actually ended up making a bunch of money to the point where I believe they're doing a sequel. For those of you not familiar with this film, it is a rather low budget. I know they shot this movie, I think, for under $10 million or something like that. The movie does star Mandy Moore, who I'm sure many people are familiar with because of the show This Is Us. But basically, her and the character that plays her sister, they're on this kind of Mexican vacation. They decide they're going to go. there's they're going to go on one of those kind of deep water scuba diving things where you get put in a cage and you get to see the sharks swim up to the cage and stuff like that. Of course, things don't go according to plan, and they end up plummeting to the bottom of the ocean, and they have to survive. It's one of those types of movies. The movie does have really good tension throughout. The special effects are surprisingly really good for a movie that is so low budget. There is some twists and turns and things like that, but it's an overall for me, it's an average film. I gave it a 2.5 out of 5 stars. So next up, we have what came out on the 18th of October, which was the new Halloween film. And for anyone who's not aware of this, I'm pretty sure many of you are not. There is a new Halloween film this year, and this film is picking up where the original left off, completely negating all of the sequels and the reboot that we had with Rob Zombie and all this kind of stuff, and just going really back down to basics. I'm going to really save what I have to say about this movie until I do my official review, which I don't believe will be up by the time I do this video. So, for those of you who are interested in what I think, it's a really good movie. There's great filmmaking throughout. The soundtrack's amazing. Jamie Lee Curtis steps right back into the role. She's fantastic, and I really did enjoy the movie overall. So I give this film a close to 4 out of 5 stars. For me, it's between a 3.5 and a 4, but I really enjoyed it. I'm curious if they're going to make a sequel to it because it's probably going to do very well at the box office. Next up on the 19th of October, I watched a film called I Walked with a Zombie, and this is an older film from 1943 directed by Jacques Tourneur. And I watched this because I believe it was also produced by Val Lewton, who was working at RKO Studios in the 1940s, making a bunch of horror films because they wanted to compete with the Universal monster movies that were making so much money, being so successful at the time. And they, of course, Universal monsters were like Frankenstein and Dracula, the Mummy, all those iconic ones that we all know and love. But this was a rather interesting film. It takes place centered around a character that is a nurse, and she is taking a job in the Caribbean, and it deals with like voodoo magic and resurrecting the dead, and not so much resurrecting the dead, but like turning people into kind of brain dead zombies and stuff like that. It's a rather gothic type film. There's also a romance in it as well. I really loved the atmosphere, and I thought the atmosphere was great. And it's interesting watching zombie movies before the modern concept of zombies, which we get now all the time. They were rather different, but they dealt with less of the undead and more of this kind of voodoo mojo type stuff. So I rather enjoyed the film. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Next up here is another film that actually ended up being a rewatch for me because I was doing a podcast episode on my podcast now, along with my friend Stephen Billings. The Cinema Discovery Project is our podcast, and we did a spotlight on Peeping Tom, directed by Michael Powell, and this is what I watched on October 20th. And this is a phenomenal film. This film is excellent. For those of you not familiar with this film, it centers around the character of Mark Lewis, who is a kind of loner. He's a photographer slash videographer. But he's also a murderer, and the way he captures his murders are very unique. He likes to film all of them as he's murdering his prey, or his murderees. He likes to watch them and record them as he's killing them to get their reaction, and it's kind of a fetish for him. And this film is rather controversial for the time it came out. I won't say much about it because I really want people to discover this for themselves for the first time. It came out in 1960, so the same year as Psycho. So this film and Hitchcock's Psycho are very much kindred spirits in what they're doing to the genre, pushing the genre forward in new and interesting ways at the time. Definitely check this out. I gave this film a 5 out of 5 stars. I think it's fantastic. Michael Powell is a great filmmaker. He's right up there with Alfred Hitchcock, in my opinion. Next up on the 21st, which is the final day in the week of watching these horror movies, is another older film called The Old Dark House. And this film It was directed by James Whale, came out in 1932. And the reason why James Whale may sound familiar to you is because he directed Frankenstein. And I believe he also directed Dracula as well. And it's very interesting that he did this film right around the same time. And you can see very much his style being evoked within it. It's very atmospheric. It has a really dark, moody feel to it. If you're the plot of this film, basically a bunch of travelers are kind of stranded in this house due to inclement weather. You know, it's rainy, it's stormy outside, and they are essentially stuck at this old dark house. And a lot of creepy things are going on inside of it. The inhabitants in it have kind of a dark past, and they're kind of weird people in and of themselves, and just weird things kind of happen in this film. Boris Karloff is in the film, Melvin Douglas is in the film, Charles Lawton is in the film. Overall, I really enjoy the film. It is an older film, so you have to really be patient with it. And it's also a film that's not that long. It only clocks in at 72 minutes. So it is a quick watch if you can find it. And if you're into older horror films or just older films in general. And I gave this film a 4 out of 5 stars. Like I said, I really enjoyed it. So that has been my week 3 recap of all of the horror films that I watched. I'm trying to squish in a few more videos that are horror or Halloween centric before the holiday comes and goes, which is coming up very, very quickly. I hope all of you have had a good October. I hope all of you have been watching some horror movies if you're into that. And I hope all of you have a good Halloween if I don't put up another video before then. So until I see you next time, thank you all for watching.